Can you talk about the political implications of Shi'ism, especially as in Iran being the voice of Shia Islam? Well, of course, you have within the Shia world political theories. Iran's political theory of Wilayat al-Faqih is not something set in concrete. It's a theory that has developed over time of the authority of the jurisprudent leading the Islamic State. And therefore, Iran, leading the Islamic State, comes forward with its own political policies. Does that mean these political policies are incumbent or binding on every Shia? No, they're not. If a Shia decides to follow, for example, Sayyid Ali Sistani, then the politics of, for example, the Iraqi government and the Shia rulers there may be the direction of the political establishment. Now, for example, Iran has its own political policies or its own political statements. Ahmadinejad, for example, some people say came forward and said, we want to wipe Zionism off the map or wipe Israel off the map. Well, of course, it's a dangerous situation for us living in America, as an example, or in the UK, when there is such a blunt statement which is made. But when the statements are taken into context, what is the political policy different from what 154 members of the UN General Assembly want? How many times, and Finkelstein is the best advocate of such an idea, how many times the UN General Assembly votes about Israel? It's always 154 against 3, 161 against 7. Now, I was discussing with some of the brothers earlier that the 7 are normally places you go on a honeymoon to. As in barring Israel and America, the rest is whom? Marshall Islands. I don't know if anyone's been to the Marshall Islands, but all of a sudden they have a strong voice. And a few other places which I think are islands this big, who now have a voice supporting the Israeli cause. If Ahmadinejad, for example's political stance is seen as being somewhat strange, well then 154 other members of the UN General Assembly are strange. Whereas the rest of them all disagree on the position of Israel. Is Iran's political position something wrong when Iran advocates the support of Gaza and Palestine more than some so-called Sunni countries? Really like the presence of Egypt in that situation. So what, Iran continues to say Palestine, Palestine, Palestine. People are like anti-Iran, anti-Iran. Why anti-Iran? As in Iran, Khomeini is the first person who came forward and said Quds Day. There's a day called the Quds Day. To remember whom? Sunnis? No, to remember Muslim brothers. Political policies wrong? Well, if you're going to look after Muslim brothers, or for example, I don't need to mention any names because I might not get a visa back here. But for example, across the border of Palestine, you know where I'm going. I'm not going to mention his name. He rules a certain group of people who are very strong, mountain people, completely to whoever came near them. He supports Palestine more than any other. And he's the biggest supporter of Sayyid Ali Khamenei in Iran. And the whole Sunni world, if we're talking Sunni politics and Shia politics, the whole Sunni world takes him as their leader, and the idea that barring the extreme factions which gave a Friday khutbah on the time when his people were defeating a certain group of people in Saudi Arabia, there was a khutbah which said, do not support the man. Why? Because he's a Shia. And yet the Shia man comes in every one of his lectures and says, support our brothers in Palestine. So Iran's political policies don't seem to have much of a problem. It's only whether the word Shia makes us have a problem with them. And it continues to say, also, are the international intra-faith conferences really working or good photo opportunities? Well, I agree with whoever says that when I say that some of them are straight photo opportunities. I'm not going to deny that. But you know what? That's the world we live in, us Muslims. In many cases, we're working for photo opportunities with those who rule the Arabian states. You ask them for help, they'd rather side with your enemies than side with you. So if a photo opportunity is the only way to bring Sunni and Shia leaders together, then let's begin somewhere. You see, some countries in the Middle East, unbelievable. They'd rather support the cause of oppression and go against their own Muslim brothers. And if Muslim brothers can get together in a photo op for Sunni Shia unity, you know what, let's start somewhere. Because we can't continue with this backward-minded thinking that they are this and we are this. If that disunity continues, there's no way we're going to develop. And so, it may be photo ops. On the other hand, I do believe, like for example, having known from Iran especially, Iran has excellent Shia Sunni conferences. And they don't really make many of the photos, to tell you the truth. You have to be invited to really know the amount that goes on in terms of bringing together the sects in the religion of Islam in Iran. I think sometimes there are people with a bad image of a country which has done more to try and bring Muslims together than any other place. I was actually reading, any of you read the articles of Reza Zia Ibrahimi? Well, he wrote an article recently about Iran, and he was talking about the whole idea that they say Iran is anti-Jewish and so on. There's a member of the Iranian parliament who's Jewish. And when Khatami went and visited all the synagogues within Iran, there's no problem with a person being Jewish in an Islamic country. Iran's political policies are differing with Zionism, not with Judaism. And there's a difference between the Zionist and the Jew. Does joining a Sunni organization contradict a Shia's loyalty to Imam Mahdi? No way. Joining a Sunni organization contradicts the Shia loyalty to Imam Mahdi. On the contrary, the Sunni brothers all believe in Imam al-Mahdi. But they may not believe he's born yet. But the idea of justice within the Imam, that's still amongst us. I, as a speaker, have lectured in many Sunni organizations. That's not changing my loyalties. Rather, I'm finding brethren who I can work with on this issue. I've lectured with Sunni organizations here in the United Kingdom, across Europe, across the Middle East. And until today, many of my closest friends who are fellow speakers on the circuit, until today, many of them work together, and we're best of friends in trying to work together to bring a healthy environment within the Islamic world. Anyone who has this very narrow-minded vision, unfortunately, that's the vision which is causing trouble for the religion of Islam. Don't misconceptions of Shia Islam start from divisions within. Ismaili follow Imamat, Ithna Ashari, the Sunnis follow the Caliphate. Well, each of the schools in Islam has their own definition as to what is Caliphate. After the Prophet passes away, the method of choosing a Caliph even differs between Caliph to Caliph. The first Caliph was chosen in an election. The second was chosen by the first. The third was chosen by 6. The fourth was chosen by the whole community. If a school wants to subscribe to that opinion, that's their opinion. There's no concrete way. The first caliph, the Prophet is dead, is being elected in Saqifa, while the Prophet is being buried. The second caliph gets chosen by the first. Well, if the second can get chosen by the first, so why couldn't the Prophet choose? As in, the first has the ability to choose, but the Prophet doesn't choose. I don't know how that works, but it's a political opinion. What I'm trying to say is that every school in Islam has their own understanding of the origin of the religion. The Shia, as I said, are of the opinion that the Imam is chosen by the Prophet before the Prophet passes away. And so with each school's opinion, every school has considerable evidence which come to back up these opinions. When I speak to fellow Sunni scholars in the world, when we've studied, be it at Al-Azhar when we were together, or be it, for example, at any other institute, you'll find that they'll show me a corpus of narrations as to why and how you choose a caliph. Every school uses those narrations in determining their history. At the end, it's your personal research which has to come together to find your own conclusion. If you believe that 6 people in a shura can choose the Khalifa, if 4 of them agree, you have to kill the 2 that disagree. If 5 agree, you kill the 1 that disagrees. If 3 agree and 3 disagree, then Abdul Rahman bin Auf makes the decision. If you believe that's the method of choosing a Khalifa, stick to it. If you ask me what's my personal opinion isn't an opinion I just thought rationally about. It's an opinion which, like any other Muslim, is something which isn't inherited by our fathers and mothers, but is rather something which is studied through the narrations, and then a conclusion is reached. And that's where all the Muslims reach their argument through.